one.
Hey, welcome to Fresh Black Coffee once again. This is Eddie Huff pouring it on you here. Today I want to talk about a situation that's really taken a lot of airtime and a lot of mental time for a lot of people. And that's this rise of this new socialism in America. You've got AOC, as we like to call her, and her cohorts. This all started with Bernie Sanders, of course, Democrat, socialist. And I think it's something we need to nip in the bud right now. I like to call them now the Democrat Socialist Party, which is what they really want to be. And we'll just call them DESIs for short. You know, you had the National Socialists, which were the Nazis. Now you have the Democrat Socialists, which are the DESIs. And there are a lot of similarities, which I won't go into today. What I wanted to talk about today, though, is something that troubles me, and this is a lot of Christians falling into this idea that socialism, as defined by the DESIs, is a biblical concept. Let me tell you, it's not. The biblical socialism, if you will, and let me say this, I do believe that in its pure sense or truest sense, that socialism is valid. However, it's a voluntary socialism. If you look at the book of Acts, everyone brought together from what they had to give to those who did not have. What we're looking at today is government, some power, taking from those, from what you have, and giving it to others. And so there's just so many things that can go wrong. Fraud, waste, abuse, and all of that, as we see daily and we hear about all the time. So I want to explain some differences. Now, here's why this is important. If you look back at Matthew 25, in fact, about 10 years ago, how long has it been? No, it's 12 years ago now, when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, Kanye West got on TV on a telethon and said George Bush doesn't like black people. He sent the government down to shoot us and all these kind of silly things. But here's the deal. This pastor then, from a large black church in an eastern coast. I won't even go tell you what state he was in. However, it was a very large church. And he wrote an article in a magazine I came upon, how I am now a big fan of Kanye West. And I read this article, and he started talking about he had never listened to any of Kanye's music or any of that. But he's now a fan. He's going to go out and buy it because Kanye was speaking the truth to power. And so I wrote this pastor and via email and said, you never listened to Kanye, you don't know what he's promoting, what he stands for, or anything yet. You're going to go out and buy his records or CDs and present them, promote them even. And without entering any kind of discussion, he said, oh, you're just one of those right-wing conservative Christians. All you care about is abortion rights or pro-life issues and pro-marriage, anti-gay marriage. And he said, you obviously have never read Matthew 25. Whatsoever you do for the least of these, my brethren, you do unto me. So I thought I had read Matthew 25, many times in fact. But I decided to read it again. And after I read it, I wrote the pastor back and I said, Pastor, thank you for challenging me to reread Matthew 25, particularly as it respects to feeding the poor, giving a drink, giving food, clothing, and visiting the prisoner. I said, there's only one thing about that. I didn't see anywhere in there where Jesus said, whatsoever Caesar does in my name, whatsoever George W. Bush does in my name, I saw whatsoever you do in my name, you have done unto me. So in other words, Pastor, you're asking the government to do what Jesus is asking you to do. What have you done? Of course, I didn't hear back from him. And this is the problem with these people. In fact, I like to have this definition ready whenever I run into a liberal or a progressive, as they want to call themselves today. and particularly Desi's, Democrat Socialists. The way to tell the difference between a conservative and one of these other people is that when a conservative sees a problem or need, they ask themselves, what can I do to meet that need? When a progressive sees a need, they ask themselves, what can I do to get everybody else to take care of that need? That's a huge difference. Many of you probably know the story of Ananias and Sapphira in the book of Acts. This was a couple that wanted to be Christian or parts of the church, members of the church, and yet they didn't want to really come clean. So what they did, as the people were bringing and giving what they had, Ananias and Sapphira said that, you know, we've sold everything, we're giving everything into the collective body. But what they really were doing, they were holding back. They were only giving a certain amount, holding it back. They were judged, they were killed. Now, I don't want to get into the whole theology and the whole discussion of why would God kill these people for doing this, but suffice it to say, that's what happened. And he killed them because they were lying to the Holy Spirit. So now this is for the Christians out there, okay? So if you are buying into this rationale that I'm great at giving, I'm giving to all these charitable causes, I'm paying my taxes, people need to pay more. I think you're buying into that a little bit because you're letting your own responsibility be overridden by the government's demands. And therefore, I'm asking you to look at this a whole new way. Remember, Jesus said, what have you done? Whatsoever you do in my name. Not what you get the government to do, not how much you get Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, whoever to pay taxes. These men now have chosen to give 50% of their wealth to certain causes, and that's good. That's great. We need more of that. For some reason, though, the Democrat Socialists, it's not enough, okay? And they want to give everybody free stuff, free education, free health care, free housing. I'm not kidding, free food. I mean, it's like all of a sudden, and yet they live large. They're in Washington, D.C. They don't live by the same rules. They don't pay the same taxes. They don't pay the same Social Security. They don't pay the same health care. They don't do any of this. But they're the ones who determine what the rest of us do. So I just want you to remember, whenever you hear somebody talking about their fair share, the fair share is whatever God puts on your heart to give. That's what fair share. And you know what else? He wants you to do it privately and quietly. If you give, go into your closet privately and give, or write your check. When you pray, go away quietly into your closet and pray. Whatever you do it as unto God, not unto man. Because if you do it unto man, there's your reward. You do it unto God, he will reward you. What you do privately, he will reward openly. So that's something I've wanted to share for a while, but don't buy into this socialism garbage because it's not truly biblical socialism. It's not a form of biblical charity. Biblical charity, I will say this one more time, is what God asks you to do for the least of these. And you do it quietly, you do it humbly, and you do it with a good spirit. So anyway, that's all for today. Next time I want to get a little more into the whole immigration issue and the whole, again, a biblical challenge of entertaining strangers and foreigners, how we're supposed to treat strangers and foreigners, okay, from the Bible. So anyway, hope you guys have a good week. Look forward again. If you want to get in touch, write me at freshblackcoffee@gmail.com. That's freshblackcoffee@gmail.com.